Welcome back to Football 301. I'm your host, Nate Tice. We wrap up our division previews today. Collect the set of 8 with the AFC West, Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos. Interesting Broncos and the Chargers, of course, to wrap up our division previews. Going to be a super fun show. And also at the end of the show, after that division preview, I interviewed Bijan Robinson, running back from the Falcons. Super fun interview at the end of the show, so make sure to stay and listen to that. But to help me preview the AFC West, as always on these shows, he's Mr. AFC for the last couple of weeks. We're a week away from games that he can actually chart in weekly rankings, and he can stop talking about round 6 through 8 receivers that he's interested in, barbell strategies, all that good stuff. We're almost here. Matt Harmon, how you doing today, Matt? We are in week 0 for the NFL, so congratulations, we're almost there.
Dude, I can't wait. I'm still charting some like last season guys, just because I got to round out some top players that nobody needs. If you get your Justin Jefferson reception perception on August 30th, it probably doesn't really change anything for you, but we got to keep the historical database right and tight. But yes, I'm very much looking forward to new games, man. I mean, I'm at the point the other day where I see a bunch of people on Twitter popping off about, Ricky Pearsall. Do we even actually know if he's good? And everybody's hyping him up in fantasy. I'm like, guys, at this point, any debates that you have, and people obviously just love to argue, but any debates that you have, like differences in players at this point in August, it's just, hey, we'll see what happens when the games start. How about that? We'll just see. We're going to get the games here pretty soon, and then we can get some answers.
What are beaks this weekend with a little week 1 college football? We got Texas, Ohio State, a whole bunch of good games. So it's just take a pause from fantasy arguments.
Yeah.
From just any arguments where Jalen Hurts ranks in the quarterback tiers. Like, let's just take a pause. We got games. We got next week. We're rolling. We're there. Cut down days happen. I know some of our favorite little players from the Shrine Bowl got cut. Maybe a UDFA did make the team, probably on the Vikings, because I think they got about 12 UDFA rookies on their team. It's part of their strategy, stars and scrubs. But no, we're almost there, and that's why it's fun to wrap up this preview. And actually, I feel better about this preview because a whole bunch of news dropped on these teams, which we'll talk about, particularly one team and one position that they have. But before we jump into that AFC West preview and that particular team with all the news, make sure to check us out on the Yahoo Sports Network, our brand new streaming TV channel. The Yahoo Sports Network is available to stream on leading fast services. It's also streaming live 24/7 on yahoosports.tv, where you can catch all of the shows on your phone or on your browser. So make sure to check out the Yahoo Sports Network. All right, let's do this. Let's jump into it. A block. We're starting with the Raiders. We have been alphabetical order on every single one of these shows, but we are starting with the Raiders, the 4-13 Raiders, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. But why are we starting off with them, Matt? Did a couple things happen with a particular position that you focus on with the Raiders? I'll let you take the lead here. What happened in the Raiders receiver room this week?
A lot happened in the Raiders receiver room this week. First of all, Jacoby Meyers wants a contract extension and requested a trade, which, damn, that is coming pretty late in the game. Of course, I will talk about it. I don't expect the Raiders to trade him, but I also understand where Jacoby Meyers is coming from. Jacoby Meyers is making $11 million a year right now. He's in the Tutu Atwell, Darius Slayton zone. He's sandwiched between those guys in APY. And let me just say, we can argue and debate about where Jacoby Meyers ranks among league-wide receivers. It's higher than Darius Slayton, Tutu Atwell, and De'Ami Brown. Hey, we can throw this guy out on the field and it's not embarrassing as our third, fourth receiver type candidate. Jacoby Meyers is much better than that, coming off one of the best seasons of his career. So I understand, of course, just the complications there. We'll get into all that. Then, honestly, the more surprising thing was Amari Cooper signs a 1-year deal. At the end of August. Nate, there has been a shocking lack of buzz about Amari Cooper. Well, maybe not so shocking, but a real shocking lack of buzz. And then he signs with his former team, where you guys worked together there in. Oh, well, it was Oakland at that point, right?
It was Oakland, but yes, Vegas. We were.
Yeah, it was Oakland. So you guys were together with the Raiders. He's now back. So a lot has happened in this wide receiver room that already had people interested, just because the passing game in this offense is pretty fascinating.
how many different head coaches have the Raiders had since Amari was last there? Because Gruden traded him away, and then they got what's his face, Rich, the special teams coach, and then
Bisaccia, I guess it's Bisaccia, Josh McDaniels, and Antonio Pierce, and obviously now we got Pete Carroll, so that's four guys.
Since he's last been there. It hasn't been that long, but it has. No, I think when we'll just start with talking about this offense, and we know that the Chip Kelly led the highest paid coordinator in NFL history. I just have to keep adding this. This is a new Raiders. That's why they signed Pete Carroll. They got Tom Brady, if you don't know. Tom Brady, who can visit practices now, by the way, for part of his Fox deal. But this is what they were going for. But when we looked at this offense, we kept kind of going, who's playing receiver? Where's Jacoby lining up? Okay, who's opposite of Jacoby? Like, it was just kind of looking at the receiver room. They're only carrying 5 at this point in time, and that's with adding Amari Cooper. So it's not like a deep receiving room. It's interesting with Jacoby Meyers and Jack Besh that they drafted, Deontay Thornton. They seem to really want to get going at receiver, but how do you even see that shaking out? Say, like, because Jacoby absolutely needs a pay raise. He's not getting $30 million, like I think his agent's asking, but he deserves to get more than Alan Lazard in the year 2025. Like, Jacoby to me is like, can be part of your top 3 pass catchers. If you have a nice receiver room or a tight end or something. This team is just so funky that their 2 best offensive weapons are a tight end and a running back potentially. And it's Chip Kelly who's going to hybridize a lot of their offense and use, I think, a lot of tight ends. And I will talk about Michael Mayer a little later on top of Brock Bowers. So like the receiver room is always just auxiliary to me in this offense, whether that's fair or not, because I think a lot of the concepts Chip Kelly likes to run attacks the middle. And if you notice, even this preseason, when Geno throws to the outside, what are the routes? Goes. Like, it's just very vertical on the outside. And so that's why I think that I'm curious how Amari Cooper fits, because where do you think Cooper fits best? Like, I know we've talked about flanker. Is it slot? Is it true on-ball X? I've kind of shifted opinions every year on it, basically, like what I see. But and I think Jacoby Meyers is actually best as almost a power slot, but he can bump out outside too. But if you're in 2 tight end looks, they both have to be, I don't know. It's just not circling into the circle part, into the round hole as much as I want. There's a little squareness to this. Do you agree with the receiver room and how that shakes out?
Well, we absolutely have to get like alignment bro dork level stuff with this Raiders wide receiver room, because like that is the big reason. That's the big reason that Dante Thornton has been playing so much as the round 4 rookie receiver, and Jack Besh as the round 2 rookie receiver has been running almost exclusively as a backup. And this was like a signal to me right away when Thornton got drafted, because I remember when they drafted Jack Besh, I'm like, man, that's a little interesting, because I think Besh, while he was a perimeter and a one side of the field wide receiver for TCU last year, I always talk about this. These guys that take over 70% of their snaps at one outside receiver position among the prospects I've charted over the last few years, like those guys are almost all like the first round players outside of Drake London, who's just like a different dude. The mid like first round guys and second round, it's all like the busts of the busts. The rest of the guys are kind of like the Cedric Tillmans. They're going to take a season to come along. So again, despite him being that type of player, Jack Besh, I thought he fit best as kind of like a big slot move around guy. But that is who Jacoby Meyers is, which is I think part of the reason that they're not interested in giving Jacoby Meyers as an extension. In addition to the fact that he's an addition from the old regime, he's also, I think that Jack Besh is like his replacement in 2026, and it gives them a little more. I like Jacoby Meyers. He's actually similar to I have said for a while that Jalen Coker, which by the way, happy Jalen Coker Day to you, Nate Tice. You're glad that I even took a break from the constant partying I've been doing today with Adam Thielen moved out of town to even join you on this podcast. Okay, so let me just, you are welcome for that. But I thought that Jalen Coker kind of reminded me a little bit of Jacoby Meyers, because there are these guys that can beat man coverage, but they're probably best from the slot, crafty players that can win over the middle of the field. Strong. But I think Besh gives but I think Besh probably gives you a little more oomph in like the blocking game and stuff like that than maybe Meyers does. So, but again, to bring this back to Thornton, when he was drafted in the 4th round, I was like, oh, he actually stands out in this receiver like kind of grouping here, because he's an X receiver. He flashed a little bit against man coverage in college, but I still thought he would be a developmental guy that needed a lot of seasoning, but he's gotten on the field because he's like basically their only X receiver candidate, which brings us to Amari Cooper, who had, I think, the best seasons of his NFL career with the Browns in 22 and 23 as their X receiver. Over 70% success rate versus man and press in back-to-back seasons those 2 years with the Browns. But last year, I mean, just completely falls off the cliff. He goes to like 61% against man and press. Like, he was not able to really, he did not threaten vertically at all, which is where Thornton, I think, is best. He ran his most commonly run route that I charted was a 9 route, and it was by far his worst route. Like, he gained no separation, no ability to like stack and go with. It's certainly not his game. It's never really been his game. It's certainly not his game now. I still think he can be good on these like post routes, dig routes, slant routes, like kind of the in-breaking stuff. So maybe that does mean he's more of a movement Z for this team and pushes Trey Tucker to the bench. So I think right now, if I had to guess, in 11 personnel, they'll probably line up Thornton at X, Cooper at flanker, and Meyers in the slot. But I also think, Nate, they're not going to be in 11 personnel very often. I think they'll be in like they've been a pure 11 personnel team in the preseason, and I would be stunned if that's anything more than just Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll being completely vanilla and not showing their hand.
I agree. Yes, tapping the nose, Principal Skinner. Yeah, I totally agree with this, because I think that's what they're going to base out of. I think they'll use that on third down, because Bowers is a slot too. Like basically one of the best interior receiving weapons in the league. He can be a slot. He can be off tight end. He can do some on-ball stuff as well. He can split outside. He dunked on a DB on the outside this past week or this past month. So I agree with you. And I also am high on Mayer. I'll save him for a later section. But Michael Mayer, their tight end from a couple of years ago, who in a great tight end class was the consensus tight end one. I got to remind people that he was my tight end one. He was Dane Brugler, who I worked with the Athletics tight end one. Just about everybody. You had some people that, had some Dalton Kincaids in there. And then other tight ends from that class have kind of overshadowed them. Sam Laporta, of course, had a great rookie year. Tucker Kraft is part of that class. Brent Strange is part of that class. But Mayer was the guy. And I think he looks, again, like that guy. And it could be the best tight end duo if it projects that way. And so get him on the field. And then they got Chip Kelly, who will. So that's why the Amari Cooper thing is interesting to me, because Amari, I thought, has always been best on the move or when he gets to break on a route, and not break early on a route. So we're getting specific here. But this is why I always thought in Dallas, I liked how they used him. But okay, we'll get you on over routes. We get you on digs. We get you on that stuff. Again, this is anecdotal for me, but it's like, I always just thought where he got some space to set guys up and then break off of them, that's where his greatest strengths were. I always thought he was bad vertically, because I don't think he's a ball winner type. I don't think that's just his strength of his game. Even if he's a bigger dude, he's got some strength to him. I think you want him moving. I've always thought the Chiefs were the perfect fit for him. But it's just, you just want stuff moving for him. So that's why I just didn't think it's the perfect fit for this offense. But the Raiders need a guy. They need a body like this. So it's kind of, all right, what's the best we can do? But I agree with you that Thornton is the best fit for being an outside receiver for his skill set. Even if he's not a perfect, well-rounded guy, he fits for what they need on the outside. I do want to share some Trey Tucker stats, and no one cares about this, probably but me. So
I care. I think I'm going to care.
Yeah. So Trey Tucker might fit in this offense. He might not, but there's one thing that Trey Tucker is he's the fastest player in the NFL, the fastest player. So among players last year, all players, all positions, right. Trey Tucker, he had the fastest average speed in the NFL amongst anybody, receiver, DB, anybody, including special teams, including any plays. He had the highest rate of plays reaching 15 miles an hour or more. 40% of the plays that Trey Tucker was on the field. Yes, he is a gunner sometimes too, or was, I believe. 40% of the plays, he was reaching 15 miles an hour or more. That's like the good speed. 13.42 was his fast. It was his average. Second, Jameson Williams. But this is actually why I wanted to lead into this, because we got some names when I started looking up average speeds that I think you'd be really interested in, Matt Harmon. Second is Jameson Williams. Third, Calvin Ridley. Fourth, Darius Slayton, which was the one that
makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fifth, Tyreek Hill, which makes sense. He has dropped off greatly. I could talk about that at a later time. I finally found the stats. Sixth, Garrett Wilson. 7th, Cortland Sutton. Makes sense. Vertical X. 8th, the 8th fastest average speed, according to Next Gen Stats, in the entire NFL. Marvin Harrison Jr. He was 6th in plays, reaching 15 miles an hour or more. I did this whole segment to get to Marvin Harrison Jr. is fast. 9th, Roman Dunze. 9th is Roman Dunze.
Let's go.
So, yes, I had to bring this up. 10th is Amon-Ra St. Brown. So had to bring this up. Yes, Marvin Harrison Jr., 8th in average speed, according to Next Gen Stats. But thought that was super, super interesting. He's a burner. He's an interesting guy. And Chip Kelly likes speed. If you remember his old Oregon teams, everybody ran a freaking 4.3 on those teams. So he gets one little scat back guy that I'm sure he's going to do some interesting stuff because he's literally the fastest player in the NFL. I'm sorry for swearing right there. I just got really excited about it.
No. It had to be done. You should not apologize. That was a deserved swear. And that's got to be. I mean, I'm just looking at guys that I have that I've charted at like over 19% go route percentage last year. Calvin Ridley, Garrett Wilson, Cortland Sutton are all among those guys. So there's, and I feel I didn't chart Darius Slayton, but I feel like that's got to be up there.
A lot of goals
Harrison
there.
At one point was running a bunch of goes, but they cut that back as the year went on. So there's definitely like a correlation. But that's another reason why I thought, like, even though Trey Tucker, in my personal opinion, probably not a needle moving player. Again, why he was on the field a bunch,
just
as ahead of Besh, because he's a speed guy. Just we're trying to clear stuff out for these two tight ends for the run game. I think that's what a lot of these guys are going to do. Even Thornton, who I do think is an interesting player, but he's probably like, you're hoping he's MVS with better hands. And I know that sounds like, oh my God, MVS, but like if MVS could catch, we would have had some really nice moments in the NFL. That's kind of what you're hoping Thornton could be. But yeah, I know I'm glad you brought up some of the Amari Cooper stuff, because I used to get so much crap for saying he was really overrated as a route runner. But I think he just I'm
with you.
It's more about like you get him on that break and crack it in. Same with Jerry Jeudy, honestly. I know they both went to Alabama, but they do all like the flashy footwork nonsense that looks good on TikTok, but it's like you want them which is what the Browns do really well. And I think that they might do this well with Cooper here. You want him, pushing vertical and then snap it. Yep. And like, I think that's when he creates a lot of space. So I don't know. I don't really know how good do you think this Raiders offense is going to be? We talked about this on the fantasy show. I think I'm still
fun and interesting than outright good. Yeah. They got a real quarterback. I mean, we haven't even mentioned Geno Smith, who is a real quarterback, top half quarterback. It's just, I think the O-line has looked good this preseason. But that is, to me, I am not assessing this offensive line. I don't want to be on record about it until we get going, because I have no idea how it's going to shake out. They moved Jackson Powers Johnson, all that. And it's just one of these things where, Chip Kelly's offenses had some limitations on third down. Had some limitations where, maybe they didn't have the next wrinkle if defenses caught on, like they couldn't adjust as well. But the hope is this is probably the best quarterback that's maybe been in this offensive system, in Geno. So maybe they have some more real quarterback play, some true drop back stuff on third down. So to me, it's more fun and interesting than outright good. Like I wouldn't be shocked if they finish in the middle of the league, of 12, 14, 16, somewhere that. But I think that's also the ceiling. I don't see it ending up being top 10. I mean, they did draft Ashton Genty, who we haven't mentioned either, who's super exciting, looks the part. Please go down in the preseason. I appreciate the competitiveness, but please go down. But Ashton Genty looks the part as well. They got an interesting offensive coordinator, but it's just they need one more offseason, I think, to really get what they want to get. Like, I think they need another lineman. I think they need another receiver that fits the offense. I will say the Jack Besh thing has always just been in the back of my mind, because that's a Chip Kelly receiver in my head. Horizontal guy, can block. He had Jake Bobo at UCLA, and that's the guy that I keep thinking back, because he used him as like a hybrid tight end receiver. Same body type and everything. Not just saying that because they're both white, but just saying that they're built the same, they play the same. So that's always been in my head. Like, okay, maybe he uses them like that, where he's a receiver, but he does a lot of tight end duties. What's his face from the Bengals is like that too. Ivashish. I always bring the Greek.
Shabazz.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, enough on the Raiders offense, but it's interesting. It's one of the most interesting units, I think, in the NFL. There's a lot. It can go to a lot of different directions. They have a lot of interesting parts. How it comes together is probably one of the more fascinating subplots, I think, on Football 301, I'll say. I wouldn't say nationally, but Football 301. All right, let's move on to the defense, who returned Patrick Graham. Patrick Graham has now, I think, earned the reputation of can make lemonade out of lemons. He can just kind of get the most out of nothing. Last year, they finished 14th in weighted DVOA amongst a bunch of injuries. This defense still has Max Crosby, top 10 borderline defender, depending on who you ask, but a very, very good defender against the run and the rush and rushing the passer. Christian Wilkins, gone. Seems like there's some injury stuff. I don't know. It's curious to me. He's still out there. They let Robert Spillane go. This linebacker room is, it's interesting. I'll put it that way. Maybe Island Misfit Toys might be the best way to put it. So the linebacker room is interesting. But again, Patrick Graham's been like a cover 2 guy. He has a Patriots background. Pete Carroll's a cover 3 guy. So that's interesting. So there might be some hybridization in there. But this defense, this Raiders defense, Matt, how good do you think they can be? Anything that's grabbing your attention? Any names grabbing your attention there?
Is this the worst back 7 in football? Like it might be. That's what
not a lot of names.
It's got to be up. Not a lot of names, Well, so, like Jermaine Pratt, maybe people obviously. Jeremy Chin, yeah, he's interesting. But they've got Devin White in this linebacker room. They've converted
Devin
Jamal
White and
Adams.
Jamal Adams are the backup linebackers.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so that's. In the year 2025, that's where we're at. Yeah, Eric Stokes is like ... Yeah, that's where we're at. Eric Stokes, obviously at corner. Of course, they drafted the big ass. Yeah, Porter, the big ass dude
from Iowa State. Yeah, yep. I love that pick. By the way, that's a Pete Carroll dart throw corner all the way. So totally get that draft pick.
So yeah, totally get the draft pick, but I think this is a defense. This defense might need 2 off seasons. Okay, I just think they're that's another thing that leads me into just kind of the weirdness about the Raiders right now is that obviously I think that everybody's selling them run first team. We know what Chip Kelly wants to do. Man, how many run first game scripts is this team going to be in? Especially in their own division. They've got 3 good offenses to compete against. They got 3 good offenses that I think that can just throw the football right over these guys' heads. Linebacker, cornerback, safety, I think is an issue. Pass rush could be, especially if Malcolm Kuntz comes back and is the player that he was a year ago prior to the injury. That's definitely interesting, but I don't know, man. I think this on paper, look, Patrick Graham's a great coach. Pete Carroll obviously is a legendary defensive back elevator. He might make Eric Stokes look like a first round pick again. You can never really put anything past Pete Carroll. He's got a great resume, but on paper, I feel like this looks like the 32nd or 30th best defense in the NFL.
There's not a lot. There's not a lot of cooking here. You're hoping it's, like I said, 14th last year. It's hard for me to envision it getting to that height. Getting that high as far as ranking wise. To me, this screams average at best. Maybe they have some good game plans, against division opponents that they know. You just make it tough. They played the Chiefs. They've played the Chiefs toughs recently. It's just hard. I keep looking and I'm like, I thought they had more interesting names on here. One of those where as I was doing my research, I'm watching preseason, and don't get me wrong, they're playing tough. They're playing smart right now. They have some interesting young D tackles. I like. If I'll throw them that bone. They have this guy Jonah Lialu. I really like a D tackle, but like you said, the back end, it's all right. Jeremy Chin is a fun player, but he's a very specific player that has to be used in specific ways. Is this the defense to do that? We'll see. The linebackers, like you just mentioned, Jermaine Pratt got let go, from the Bengals for a reason. It wasn't and they need all the defensive help you can get or they can get. Elena Roberts is kind of just a wash to me, or just kind of I'm indifferent. I'm on Elena Roberts, but then with backup linebackers is, I guess Jamal Adams gets the Pete Carroll bump, but he's a weird player too, a specific player. They're already blitzing him a ton. I'm like, no, don't do this again. Well, you don't have to appease Jamal Adams to make your defense go. Stop it. But maybe he's just a rotational package player for them. Okay, so they're gonna like this team is just going to be funky. Like they're going to catch some people because again, they have a quarterback. I know we're talking about the defense. They have competent coordinators. I really do think that. And Pete Carroll gets the most out of his guys. He has proven that he does. So, but I don't think this is like put together where it's like, wow, this team really, we're sleeping on them. They might, oh my God, look at this. They can really sneak up. It's more just like they're going to be frisky, interesting, but I'm not saying good. And that's how I feel about both of their units, but especially the defense, because that was my first thought too. It was like, all right, Max Crosby and Jeremy Chin. As I'm looking through the rest of their roster, they make the most of it, but we'll see kind of how far that can get them. It's a tough division, tough conference. You don't really get a lot of breaks to hide. All right, breakout player. Also an interesting segment for this team. Who was your breakout player for the Las Vegas Raiders, Matt?
Yeah, you and I were talking before the show that this was a tough division to pick breakout players on because it's a lot of like older established teams. There's not and I got kind of always, I don't like to take rookies in this, and there are definitely interesting rookies on all four of these teams, including the Raiders. Of course, we just talked about a bunch of them on offense. I went with, I think we actually have the same one because I can see yours on the dock. I went with Michael Mayer. I think that Michael Mayer is going to play a ton. I think this team in Chicago are going to be the ones that compete to lead the NFL in 12 personnel this year. I think they could push up to like 40%. Mayer, I get it, right? Like he's a tight end. These guys sometimes take time. He also had a personal situation last year that kept him away from the team, of course, but he's been locked in. I think that this team is going to run a ton of 12 personnel, and he'll probably be the inline guy. I don't know what his production is going to look like, but I do think like from a real life standpoint, he's going to be more the inline guy, gets after it in the run game. And, this position takes time to develop in the NFL. And I think right now he looks like a guy who could be a fringe star. I think he moves really well I've always thought he moved really well for his size. Not like a breathtaking athlete like in the Brock Bowers or like George Kittle mode, I guess, but definitely somebody that I think can move really well for the position and is a mismatch against linebackers and safeties.
Yeah, almost he could end up being like Jake Ferguson plus, like Jake Ferguson-ish, where he's like a pretty good blocker, could play in line as a pretty good receiver with strong hands. Not the fastest guy or anything like that. Michael Mayer is my breakout player too, like you mentioned. I hinted at this. I was high on him as a prospect. I was high on a lot of tight ends in that class. But with him, what I thought was, okay, I think he can at least be an above average blocker, and then just be a good, strong receiver. Might not cap out like as a catching 10 touchdowns and 1,000 yards, like you said, the true freaks at the position. But I just thought he had a good skill set. And then when I watched this preseason, he's getting open. He's blocking really well as well. And then also when he is throwing the football, he's just snagging that thing. Like he made a nice diving catch with Geno in one preseason game. He had another one where Geno was scrambling around. He went up and dunked it, went up and snatched it out of the air. I mean, now this room also has Ian Thomas. So it's just a interesting tight end room, a very good tight end room with a bunch of different skill sets. Like you're not going to ask Bowers to block a bunch of guys, but you can scrap. But then you got Mayer and then you got Thomas too. Like they might just go 3 tight ends just based out of that because we got a second receiver in Bowers anyways. But Mayer, I think, is going to be like you said, the stats might not all be there, but real football terms, he's going to be kind of a keystone player, I think, for this offense, where he allows them to do a lot of things to kind of let their funkiness go. With their 2 best players being a tight end and a running back, and so we'll see how they make that work. But Mayer is going to really help that out. Nice. I know. I was looking through this roster. I was kind of like couldn't really come up with another name that I was like really want to stand on. Yeah. All right. Over under win total. It's at 6.5 for the Raiders. What are you going with, Matt?
I'm going under here. I think they could be all the things that you described as like a plucky, interesting, competitive team and still win 5 or 6 games. It's just not a very talented roster. I think the running back and the tight end are really good. Obviously, Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, and then I think they've got a lot of role players at wide receiver and maybe kind of a league average offensive line and maybe like a slightly above league average quarterback. Depending on, I know there's some real hardcore Geno fans among our friends and in the media and stuff like that. But yeah, I think like above league average quarterback in Geno Smith. So they won't be embarrassing. I don't think they'll be embarrassing. And Nate, I think that like tenor around this team is, well, Pete Carroll is an older guy. He's not there to like rebuild, or he's there to compete right now. And I think he is there to compete right now. And I think they will be competitive. But Pete Carroll also, like, that guy probably thinks he's 55. He doesn't think like, oh, I'm however old, I'm 70 plus and I'm going to retire in 3 years. That's like the tone around. I feel like it's built in this narrative that the Raiders are not a rebuilding team. But then you look at the roster and how many holes they have. And honestly, the way they've behaved this year as well, besides taking like a running back 6 overall, they've made a lot. And the Geno trade, they've made a lot of rebuilding. Like, we're resetting the culture, resetting the roster moves. They haven't made a lot of big extensions into the future necessarily. They've done a lot of, they're not committing to Jacoby Meyers like multiple years. I think this is a rebuilding team. So successful season, and they win 5-6 games, and I think that's fine. They just need to get more talented.
Yeah, I agree that I think 2026 is where they're more like, ooh, that's the sneaky maybe wild card team. And Pete's only on a 3-year deal. I will say that. I'm going to go over 6.5, but I'm with you that I think it's 7 wins is the cap, the ceiling of it. I just think they do get there. Their schedule's wonky, where they play a bunch of tough teams, but they also get a couple easy outs near the end. Actually, not near the end. They go Broncos, Eagles, Texans. Then they go Giants, Chiefs, and hopefully the Chiefs are sitting somebody. So, but I'm with you that I think as I've looked on the roster and looked at all this, the depth. Look at who the needle movers are. As much as I respect Chip Kelly, Patrick Graham, Pete Carroll, Max Crosby, and Geno Smith, and Brock Bowers, like, not enough for the rest of the roster to overcome all the holes that they have. So they might be well coached. They might do some interesting things. I think it's more of a 6-7 win team. I'm going to go over just because I'll just want to shine that optimism before the season about where this is potentially going. All right, we are going to get to our next team here. Back to alphabetical order. The Denver Broncos, 10-7 in 2024. And then they bowed out in the playoffs to the Bills. Had a really fun first drive, though, which I will say gave some hope after that first drive. Same head coach, Sean Payton, same defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph, same just about everything here. There's a lot of continuity on this Broncos team, especially on offense. But they didn't, they added some young names. They drafted R.J. Harvey. They signed J.K. Dobbins. They signed Evan Ingram. They drafted Pat Bryant, just to add some juice to this offense. And I think that makes sense as to why, which we'll talk about right now. Broncos offense, Matt, what are you focusing on? How high do you think this offense can get? Like, do you think this can break into top? Do you have them top 10? Do you think they can break in there?
No.
Do you think they can break even higher?
No.
Okay. What can they do
I think
to break into the top 10 offense? What's the next step that you can see?
I think they could break into that like top 10, maybe back half of the top 10. They were a team that was kind of somewhere probably between like 12 and 15 to me, like definitely an above average unit. But I think what could break them in there is what I'm going to talk about here, which is I've said this a lot. I said this a lot during it and at the end of last season. It's last year the pass catching core was there are two things I focus a lot with this team. The number one, last year Cortland Sutton ran a route on 90.5% of the dropbacks, and nobody else was above 50%. So, and I think that was because Sean Payton loves his role players, absolutely, but I think it's also because nobody stepped up and really grabbed that true featured secondary third type. It was like kind of Cortland Sutton and a bunch of dudes in his orbit, basically. And then the other stat, of course, that I talked about all the time was that they were a top 10 team in yards before contact per attempt on their running back runs, and they were a bottom 5 team in yards after contact. And that's, again, to the whole point here, which is, can we get better skill position play beyond Cortland Sutton? And they've obviously made a lot of additions. They added R.J. Harvey in the draft. They added J.K. Dobbins in free agency. They added Evan Ingram in free agency. They also added Pat Bryant in the draft, and then there's been a lot of pop about Troy Franklin. And then in the preseason, Marvin Mims has run as like the true number 2 receiver on every drop back with Bo Nix. And I'm putting zero stock into that, by the way. Coach Peak Index pointed this out on Twitter that last year, Sean Payton ran Tim Patrick out as the pure number 2 receiver in the preseason. Every fantasy bro that like overreacts to the preseason, which there's more of them than ever now, is like, well, Tim Patrick going to be the number 2. And Tim Patrick got cut after running as the number 2 receiver. Marvin Mims obviously isn't going to get cut, but I don't think that means like that's going to be his role. Like the clue is there that he's the number 2 receiver, because I actually, and then maybe this is kind of contrary to my point that somebody's going to emerge as that pass catcher. I was thinking about this, and maybe I'll tweet it after we get off the pod here. I think if you actually combined the success rate charts in reception perception for Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, and Pat Bryant, it actually equals like one great player. but they each have their varies. Yeah. We need to combine. We need to like Megazord these guys together, and then it's like, wow, that's one hell of a wideout right there. But they each have their specific areas of weakness that I think maybe Pat Bryant or Troy Franklin can grow, and maybe honestly, maybe even Marvin Mims can grow. But but right now, the guys that I think they are coming to the league, coming to second year for Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims being who he is, I think there's something to be desired from each of their games. So that's really what I'm focusing on here, is who steps up in the wide receiver room. Yeah. Does RJ Harvey become a weapon? Does J.K. Dobbins better? I mean, he will almost certainly be better than what Javonte Williams gave him last year, which was close to nothing. So these skill position guys are really what's interesting to me.
It really is, because I trust the offensive line. The offensive line was probably one of, if not, I would say the best, but one of the best last year. The scheme helps them. Sean Payton will have the tight ends, running backs help stay in, all that. Only gave up a 4.1% sack rate last year. Some of that's Bo Nix, all the stuff he and kind of his creation, and be able to fast and get rid of the ball fairly quickly when he gets under pressure and everything. But I just say that offensive line is the strength of this unit, and all the questions are on the skill guys. And that's kind of by design. Sean Payton kind of prefers it that way. He'd much rather have a strong O-line and then figure out the skill guys. That's why they repaid or extended Courtland Sutton. Okay, we can set that. I agree with you, Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims, to me, seems like the special package player that, can do some other stuff. He's become a more complete player, but he's more just the throw a screen to him, throw something, a designer play type of player. But all the additions, and I think anyone that's paid attention to Broncos realize this, and whether you're high on Bo Nix or low on Bo Nix or indifferent, was that, we'll need the pass catchers got to get better. They got to create more plays for him. Everybody just falls down. The running backs got to get better. You brought up the stat last year about how they were bottom 10 in yards after contact and top 10 in yards before contact, or more or less, because it might be more harsher than that, because you're just showing that they're getting blocks, but the skill guys got to make somebody miss, got to create some explosive, do something. And I started kind of just looking at a way to kind of encapsulate this. And when I watch this Broncos offense, I trust Sean Payton almost as much as any coach in the NFL to have a good game plan, to design it as to the max. Is they got to be a better offense in flow. And what I mean by that is, or within the flow of themselves, is they got to be better on early downs, first and second down, and they got to be better when they're outside the red zone. They got to catch a pass and score from 30 yards out. They got to create an explosive play when they catch a slant or a crosser or something. More guys have to generate these big plays, because if you look, like, they don't generate any not any, but they're bottom 10 in explosive passes on early downs, and they're top 5. They're 4th on 3rd and 4th down, which to me is like, okay, we can really design this, and what they do, and I'll get to that in a sec, is they have some stuff that they get to that creates these explosives, but that's all designery. Just like I explained with Mims, it's designer plays. I want to see it more just in a true drop back, a true run play. A guy takes it to the house. And I know all Broncos fans are like, yes, that's what we want to see too. But just encapsulating this with some stats, like they outside the red zone. So they're 6th in EPA generated inside the red zone, 19th in EPA generated outside the red zone. They actually had a negative EPA last year outside the red zone. So that, to me, again, is like, once they got down there and they had a really good defense that helped with this, gave them short fields and had turnovers. Once they got down there, great. Bo Nix was able to operate. The offensive line was able to take over, because Javonte Williams might only get 4 yards, but guess what? It's at the 5-yard line, so it doesn't matter if he can't get to 14 or 24. So all of that, what I'm saying is that I like that these additions that they make, but that's really what's going to take them to the next level. Because I think, I don't know what else there is to tap into with Bo Nix, but I do think you can win with him, and I do think you can win playoff games with him because of what this offensive system is and what he provides. But even with him, I want to see him color more in between the numbers. I know he can launch the ball, and I know he can find his checkdowns. I want to see all the stuff in the flow of the offense. I'll give one last little thing here. This is like a little scheme thing and talk about stopping it being designery. Last year, Bo Nix had the most passes outside the pocket. 25%, a quarter of his throws came from outside the pocket, which usually means to me you're booting him, you're sprinting out, you're keeping it kind of 1 to 2 for the quarterback. You're half field reading it. And on 3rd and 4th down, they're doing this thing. And I think more teams are actually going to do this now because of blitz looks and stuff, but that's a separate podcast, is that they do these big sprint outs is what I call them, where Bo Nix will catch the ball, the tight end helps seal the edge, he sprints out, and they have these big downfield routes. And that's why they're able to get explosive plays, but it's not a true drop back reading the full field. It's reading half field. It turns into a sprint out or a bootleg. And I looked it up. Thank you again, Next Gen Stats. He had 15 dropbacks last year on 3rd down that involved a sprint out. That was the most in the NFL and the second most on record, which goes back to 2016. Wasn't very good on them, but it was something they do. On 3rd and medium or long, so 3rd and 3+, he had 11 of those, which is the most ever. Just have that and get some more true dropback plays and more flowy. Hopefully the skill players kind of help out and add up with that. So just a little scheme thing and just more of a offensive curiosity, because I do think the floor of this offense is super high. It's just about who can tap into the ceiling. It's going to come up to the skill guys. That was a lot, I know.
Yeah. Well, I got one more for you because you mentioned of the yards after catch stuff. As great as Cortland Sutton is, he's like a net negative yards after catch player.
Falls down.
He averaged just 2.2 yards after catch per reception, which ranked 73rd among wide receivers last year. That played, a ton. And Javonte Williams had a bunch of, he was, I think, top 4 or 5 among running backs in catches, and he averaged like 6.7 yards per catch. So I think Harvey on screens, Pat Bryant, who I think was sneaky good after the catch and will be their power slot player. I know Evan Ingram's going to take slot snaps, but I because when I tweeted about Pat Bryant, like after Devon Vele left, people are like, well, no, that's going to be Evan Ingram. I was like, guys, I don't know if I'm going to blow your mind here for a second, but the move tight end and the power slot can be on the field at the same time because you can line up 2 players in the slot. A little mind-blowing fact there. And then obviously Troy Franklin's like an explosive guy too. But yeah, Pat Bryant went down on first contact on 36% of the in-space attempts I charted for him in reception perception. So definitely those guys, Harvey and screens, like that's how we get some of the stuff, like more explosives here. And yeah, again, Franklin's is very interesting to me because can't really go over the middle, but definitely a guy that can create explosive separation plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wiry strong. He can be. He's a frustrating player. I liked him too, actually. He ended up being a top 100 player for me. So
same.
Yeah, and then Pat Bryant's becoming. You said this. I've never the most Nate Tice coded receiver, and
yes,
and as
100%.
I watched him in the preseason,
Nate's out here texting me about Pat Bryant. I'm like, yo, wow, this is the most Nate Tice coded wide receiver I've ever seen.
I gotta say, me and Sean Payton have similar tastes in a receiver, but Pat Bryant's definitely one of those where I'm like, yeah, baby, give me these jumbo slots that can he always breaks a tackle. There's something to that. It's not he's not the fastest guy, but his balance and his play strength. He always breaks a tackle. I'm always interested in a big guy that can get. That's why I love Drake London. He's not Drake London, but I love those guys that big guy, catch ball, break one tackle. Love that sequence of play. And Pat Bryant's got that. So I'm very, very excited about him. Yeah, this offense though, I put it this way, I do not think they're going to hinder this team where they're like, oh, that's why they missed the playoffs. I think the O-line's too good. The play callers are too good, and they have enough at all the skill position players that there's going to be a very, very solid unit. They're going to hammer home on some defenses, I think. Defense, though, we both had them as our top defense when we did the top 10 defenses show, which I think is pretty justified. Vance Joseph, still defensive coordinator. Jim Leonard, shout out Badgers, is on this defensive staff, which makes a lot more sense when you look at it and how they play. They brought back a lot, brought back 8 starters, but then added some potential plus starters right away. Dre Greenlaw, coming off an Achilles last year, played about a month, looked okay. And then Talanoa Hufanga, also from the 49ers, headhunting safety, an upgrade over what they had. And then they drafted Jahdae Byron, who from Texas, slot player, I think will end up being a slot safety as opposed to a slot corner, but trying to create maybe the best corner trio in the NFL should be really interesting. Matt, looking at this Broncos defense that was up there last year and pretty devastating in all metrics. How you feeling about them? What you focusing on?
Yeah, they're like the opposite of the Raiders, where I'm looking at the depth chart and it's like, oh boy, I don't know if I like any of this. And I look at this Broncos depth chart, I'm like, damn, we got a lot of good players at all three levels and some really fun players. Yeah, I think this is going to be the best defense in the league, and that's not a stretch based on what they were last year. They are one of the few teams that I think can, on like the vast majority of their downs, line up and play man coverage and just beat the crap out of wide receivers. Yep. Jahdae Barron was a prospect I really, really liked. Fun, versatile guy that you can use in multiple ways. Yeah, like just straight up. Yeah, I think this will be one of the best. I think this will be, again, one of the best defense in the NFL. They're so hard to play against. I think Vance Joseph had like I don't know, maybe like a mini revival season last year, and he does have really great players to work with, and he leaned into those players, obviously, again, leaned into that man coverage with like Pat Surtain, and just adding a couple of psychos in Drake Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga is like a really fun way to, I think, take your defense from, they were really hard to play against last year, and they just consistently like blocked up offenses, to now can we do that and create like field flipping disruptive plays to, not that they didn't do that last year, but ratchet that up another degree so that we can give our offense short fields and stuff like that. That's the type of thing that adding these two guys does to me.
That's it. There's a couple defenses in the AFC, the Texans and this Broncos defense. They're going to go on third down and go, all right, we're in man. We're going to tell you we're in man coverage. We're not hiding it at all. Beat us.
Cute short motion there. Yeah, you found out we were in man coverage. Oh no,
man.
Good
Yeah,
luck,
he traveled. He traveled. Yeah.
That's right.
We don't care. But do you know how devastating that is for an offense or a quarterback? And you know what you're getting, and you still can't beat it. It's the hardest thing. That's the Legion of Boom Seahawks. Like, that's why it was so devastating going against them. They ran cover 3 in man, and you knew what they were doing, and they still just got you. You mentioned that they ran more man coverage because they had PS2, because Surtain, reigning defensive player of the year. A reminder of that. When Vic Fangio was the head coach here and calling defensive plays, he ran more man coverage than he ever has in his career, which I always think is funny because he was like, well, I got this Pat Surtain guy. Might as well just let him rip, just let him go at it and just dominate guys. I mean, we haven't even talked about their front. Like, they're right. Zach Allen, hell of a player, just got paid again. DJ Jones, one of the best run stuffing noses in the game, D tackles in the game. I mean, they got John Franklin Meyers. They got Nick Bonito. These guys, Nick Bonito is about to get paid. He's like an emerging star in the NFL. Jonathan Cooper has juice. And then Jonah Ellis is a rotational guy. Put a pin in him. But I always spoil the breakout players. But it's just I try to avoid I can't help myself. Just listing name after name with this, but just even looking like stat wise, it's a very chaotic defense. They like to do a lot of post snap movement. So a lot of the guys are crossing faces. You can road grade them, certain, like the Ravens. That's why they caught them a little bit. The Bills caught them a little bit too. Okay, you want to do all this movement? If we have enough beef up front, we can just road grade you. But why it's so tough? So there's 11 defensive tackles last year with a stop rate of 7% or more, meaning a TFL or a gain of 0. DJ Jones was 3rd. Malcolm Roach, who's also a rotational guy, was 9th. John Franklin Meyers was 12th. And he was also 2nd, John Franklin Meyers, among all D tackles in pressure rate, only behind Milton Williams. So that's just another guy on this defense, on top of Zach Allen, on top of Benito, on top of DJ Jones, on top of Jonathan Cooper. They had 6 defenders last year with a pressure rate of 10% or more. 10% is like the good threshold. They had 6 with 10% or more. And that's like real guys with real reps, not just a couple. They had 10 defenders with double-digit pressures last year. There's always some noise with defensive stats as, they were at the top of so much. Are they actually that good? And I thought they were very good. Maybe, not one of the best defenses I've ever seen, but very good. I don't know. There's just a lot here, a lot of continuity. And then the guys they added, I think, are good players that it's like, yeah, this could really be something special we watched this year. And really, I mean, they might have a good offense, but the strength of this team, which I think is so cool. So yeah, Broncos defense, make sure you check them out this year because it'd be really fun. Also, shout out Riley Moss. It's like, I think I named every starter except for Riley Moss. But yeah, there we go there, because that's how good this defense is. Breakout player for the Denver Broncos. Who do you got, Matt?
I didn't mention Riley Moss because he was going to be like my first guy off here for breakout player. And but yeah. So yeah, he's a guy that I think played really, really well before he got injured last season. Was really playing, and he, by the way, he played like 0%, almost like I think like 90 something snaps in his rookie year total. And so I was kind of like, damn, they're just starting Riley Moss, and he really took me by surprise to start the year. So he wasn't ultimately who I went with, but I wanted to give him a shout out here. So he's kind of like my hipster breakout pick, just because he wasn't great when he came. He was fine, but he wasn't as good when he came back from injury. But again,
when he came back from injury, he was getting dunked on every week. It was like, I don't think you're right. And also, he just had bad variance. No. That's the variance of playing man coverage corner. Over and over and over. Yeah.
And especially when you're across from Surtain, like people are going to try to get like pick on you a little bit. Mm-hmm. But, he probably, I think to truly break out needs to be almost like opportunistic in those ways. But I did cheat for my final answer and I said Bo Nix. I know this is like so boring. But like what is a breakout for Bo Nix? Because he was good last year, and like what's his ceiling? I don't even really know what his ceiling is. But like, can he break out in terms of, all right, he's a top 15 quarterback and we don't have these like, well, he's a quarterback, so there'll always be weird debates about him because he's a freaking quarterback. But like, is he just an unquestioned guy that like, all right, now we're starting to think about like what's Bo Nix's contract extension after his second year? I think he can. I think he could be that guy. I do have questions about his game and ceiling overall, and I know you do too. But like, there's an old saying from my buddy Rumford Johnny back in the day, who would say, if when you have one of these offenses, and I think he probably used to say it about the Saints. Ironically enough, when you have one of these offenses where you're trying to pick like who's the breakout skill position player, this, that, and the other, it's like forget the syrup and just get the pancakes. Like just focus on the pancakes, and like that's Bo Nix here. He's the guy. So I think that because I am projecting the skill position players to play better, I'm expecting the run game to be better. That will just help out the quarterback. So ultimately, like I said, my hipster pick would have been Riley Moss, but I do kind of think like Bo Nix breaking out to being a solidified top 15-ish quarterback, I think is very possible this year.
Say. I don't want to spoil. Like, say you have them win a division, like then absolutely, just even nationally narrative, like, oh my God, who's the first team to beat the Chiefs, in years and win the division? Like you have that with it as well. No, last year the first month was so rough, and then I thought Sean Payton did such a good job of kind of going, okay, you're good at this, let's just do this. Like, let's stop trying to make it more than it has to be, and it worked. And so that's where you're saying I don't know what the ceiling is and everything. I don't either. I have hesitancy about how optimistic I get with it, but I do think this pairing with Sean Payton is going to work at least this year. And then we'll talk about ceiling and stuff. So I don't think it's a bad answer at all. I totally get it. I know that was funny where our live show from the Venetian last weekend, the first question we got was about Bo Nix. And it was one of those where we were discussing fantasy for the Q&A, but my brain was talking real football. And I was just like one of these, well, real football, I think but no, fantasy, no, he's gonna be good in fantasy, but I just had to because he can run, so I just had to gauge that as well. So, and
in a weird way, I actually think I'm higher on, or more like not higher on him, but like more optimistic about him taking a step forward in real life than in fantasy. I actually think he could take a step back in fantasy because he won't have to. I don't think he's going to have to run as much because I think there will be more options available within the route. He wanted to scramble necessarily, and his running dialed back as the year went on too, because I think he just felt more comfortable and like, let's get the ball out to Marvin Mims real quick here instead of my quarterback doing like a Taysom Hill impression. As much as Sean Payton loved Taysom Hill, I don't think he wants to see first round pick Bo Nix do the Taysom Hill stuff. So I think that his rushing stats, not to mention he just goes, not to do his fantasy, but he goes in a range of drafts where I'm just like not taking quarterbacks and just wait on it. Like, so again, I actually weirdly am higher on him in real life than fantasy, which maybe makes me a dummy, but I don't know.
And if the running backs are better, Dobbins is a nice solid back, then he doesn't get as many passes near the red zone, because they're running the ball and they're scoring, so he might get as many cheapy touchdowns. So that's very real. My breakout player, just because I was trying to find somebody fun, and I try to avoid rookies for this segment. I just do, because they're rookies, you can easily point at that. But I went with Jonah Ellis, 3rd round pick from last year from Utah. He wore a bad number at Utah too. He was like a pass rusher that wore 81, which is like, bleh. Yeah, but anyways, really twitchy. It's got actually pretty advanced pass rush game already as far as moves and everything, was productive last year, earlier than I was even expecting. I believe on my big board last year, he was player 100, like exactly. And he's one of these guys with upside from that draft class, him and Austin Booker for the Bears, where it's, okay, this is coming along a little bit. Like, okay, this might be something where it's, you don't have to be the guy. I mentioned all those names. So like, I try to avoid just the list naming or name listing when you're talking about how good a unit is, but all those names can play before he even has to see the field. So he can be just a 15 snap guy, 18 snap guy as he kind of learns even more polish with this game. But there's something to him. Like God, they have some depth at pass rusher. And they have another third round pick up there too. God, I even mentioned him. Savion Jones. Like, they just have so much on this team and so much juice and so much strength. And I think Jonah Ellis is going to be one of those. And he'll have some moments where on third down, when he's on the field in these sub packages, and he's going to get single teamed. And this is a guy that can take advantage of that, especially against some of the other offensive lines that are throughout this league. But yeah, no, Broncos defense, Jonah Ellis, just about everybody on that defense. Check them out. Over under win total, 9.5 for the Broncos. Some people's sneaky Super Bowl contender team, I might add, but it's at 9.5. What you leaning towards?
I'm going to go over here. Like I said, best defense in the league and offense that I think could be top 15. That sounds like bare minimum of 10 wins.
Easy math. I'm over for them. I feel like I feel very comfortable saying this is a double-digit win team. Like, that's the thing I want to explain even to Broncos fans, like, not even hyping up your quarterback. There's so much on this team that's looking good and things that help you win a lot of games. So I'm easily going over here, and I trust the head coach. Like, that helps a lot too. I trust the offensive line coach. I trust the head coach. I trust the defense coordinator. Right? I know it's pretty. I trust the offensive line. Like, I don't know. There's a lot here, and I know defense isn't sticky, but I just don't see this defense being worse than top 10. You know, I just can't see the bottom falling out, even if it's going to be volatile. So yeah, I'm do think the Broncos are an over team, but we are going to take our first break, and then we'll come back to wrap up the AFC West preview. All right, we are back with our AFC West deep dive onto defending 3-time AFC champs. That is the Kansas City Chiefs. You may have heard of them. They're in the news once in a while. They might have some island games this year, some national TV games. But the Chiefs, same head coach, Andy Reid, same defense coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, same quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, same offensive line coach, Andy Heck, same special teams coach, Dave Toub, same quarterback coach, Matt Nagy. Oh my God, it's just the same characters left and right. One interesting character on this Chiefs team, though, is Rashee Rice, who had just announced today will be suspended for 6 games. I have some Rashee Rice stats I'll get into, but starts off the season with that 6-game suspension. There was talk about a 10-game suspension at one point. There was talk about a court date at the end of September after 4 games. That was weird. Rashee Rice missing those first 6 games. How do you think this skill position group works out for the Chiefs? Do you feel better, even if Rice isn't there? Do you feel better about where this passing game might be for the Chiefs in 2025?
Oh man, I just wish they had one I wish they had just had one normal receiver, you know. And like I'm sorry, like I know people love these guys. I just wish they had one like X receiver line up on the boundary and beat press man coverage, and they just don't have that guy. Thornton? But yeah, they have Tyquan Thornton, which I mean, we'll see. Hey, I don't want to. We'll see what happens with Tyquan Thornton. They have been hyped up about him, and they've been launching him footballs down the field. So I think really the key with this is how good can this offensive line be? Because I think that is a trickle down effect to the wide receiver room. Because I think that. Yeah, right. I mean, I think that's the thing, though. Like, we talked about this on the previous show, where if Josh Simmons is, like, great, Kingsley Suamataia takes a step forward. Well, he takes a couple steps forward in a new position in year 2. Trey Smith, like Juwan Taylor, that's like I'm still interested in that right tackle spot, right? Just because they obviously bring in Moore, who they thought was maybe going to start at left tackle, and then he was like competing with Jawan Taylor at camp at times. And Taylor, I think, has been a little bit of a disappointment. So they've at least got some insurance at tackle too, which is great. We know they also need depth after what's happened the last couple of seasons too. So I think if the offensive line can actually take the step forward, I think that gives Mahomes like a half a second, if not a full second longer, to feel a little bit more comfortable in the pocket. And that's, to me, how they access the Xavier Worthy downfield stuff. That was just those two guys were reading off two different sheets of music last season. And I actually think I got Worthy from in the back half of the season in the playoffs. I think played much, much better. He was productive against man coverage, but he played better against zone coverage, like consistently separating and kind of being in the right spots. So that to me is really the key question here. Because Rashee Rice, like, I'm sure you're going to bust out a bunch of like awesome efficiency stats for Rashee Rice. And I get it. He does have some.
You dang straight at copy and pasted those from the top 10 offensive show. You better believe it.
Yeah. I'm sure you're going to bust out a bunch of those. The only thing I will say about Rice, and I don't say this as like a dig at him, but when you look at, and because I tweeted this out, I think when I've written like 100, what's the impact of Rashee Rice's suspension on his fantasy? Like I've done that 1,000 times. And one of the posts, and I just put it in the most recent one that they made me do today, because schedules were just wide open to do Rashee Rice reaction pieces. When you look at like the top 20 wide receivers and first downs per route run over the last 2 years, according to True Media, among guys that run 300 plus routes, Rashee Rice is like one of the outliers in terms of 4.9 air yards per target, and like his reception perception success rate versus man coverage is like 63.8%. Almost all the other guys are above 70%. Like they're consistent man coverage winners, and they certainly win more so down the field. So now he was an awesome zone beater in the first 3 games last year. His success rate versus zone coverage was actually 99th percentile, which is right in line. I think it's like right behind good, 3 Antonio, which is pretty good. It's right behind Antonio, like 3 Antonio Brown seasons and Cooper Kupp's 2021 nuclear season. So like that's the thing. If you're going to be that guy and you're going to continue to be this efficient, you have to be an elite zone beater, or you have to expand your game. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's like the latter. He's expanded his game. So that's what just kind of makes the Rice suspension tough, is that one, it takes a pretty critical dimension away from their offense. And I just wonder, like, what does he look like? What does he look like when he gets back? Like, is he still getting the same amount of volume? Like, are they still funneling targets through him? Because the whole thing is like, hey, we want to expand the offense. We want to throw the football down the field. Well, does that mean like the 4.9 air yards per target guy is going to still get those same amount of targets? Like, I think his role in the offense is a little more singular than maybe it gets painted out to be. Not that makes him a bad player or anything, like a sneaky, terrible player. Like I said, Deebo Samuel is the other outlier in that like top 20 first downs per route run list. And I think those guys could be kind of similar-ish, tackle breakers, zone beaters, stuff like that. But you do need a second pitch, which I think, again, to bring it back to the offensive line, they've got to be a big part of that second pitch.
Yeah. The encouraging things for me so I'll start with Rice, is because I'm not like some super fan of him, but he's one of these guys that's like, he's surprising me with what he's accomplishing. Because like you said, it's like pretty astounding. Like I'll bring up the metrics. First 4 weeks last year, before his knee got shredded in week 4, first in first downs per route, first in successful targets per route, third in yards per route, very explosive. When he was at SMU, I thought of him as a dunker, a ball winner type that was super explosive and raw. Like I thought the Wild Horse Mustang moniker was so perfect for him, being from SMU and everything. And then in the NFL, he became this crosser, bubble, flat, yak guy, and very good at it, which surprised me. I was like, I didn't realize you're so good with the ball in your hands. He's very explosive. Like his first step in getting his explosiveness is just that's his standout trait. Is how quickly he can get the ball upfield with the ball in his hands. What was really interesting to me, and you joked about this, extrapolating preseason, is how they used him this preseason looked almost how I envisioned him when he came into the league. So this is like they threw a back shoulder to him against the Bears, like a back shoulder go, straight up go ball, back shoulder, gets a DPI, gets a pass interference called. And then he catches a fade touchdown, like a true freaking 1999 Randy Moss fade touchdown, one-on-one, take it, advantage read. And that's how I envisioned him coming again as a prospect. And so now I'm finally seeing it. And that's where I was like, God, are you suspended for 6 weeks? God dang it. I want to see this like week 1. I want to see what this actually becomes. So I'm more bullish than you are, but I agree with you that he's funky. Like I just am I'm reading it more in a positive way, but it's just, I mean, this offense is always gonna have some funkiness to it because it's Andy Reid and so true West Coast and stuff and everything they do. Last year too I want to say they played the Falcons early. And they ran a couple routes that Rice ran were the ones that they used to give to Travis Kelce. They gave like a corner stop route, and that's interesting to me too. So before he got hurt, I was like, maybe they were starting to expand at, but we just didn't get to see it because it was only the first 3 weeks and change. But he's out for the first 6 weeks. So let's talk about the other receivers. But I am more bullish than you on Rice and what he could become. And also it's just like, they need it. But getting to the offensive line, because that's gigantic. They want to attack downfield. And I know they talk about it. I know there's jokes that this is like the 4th year they've talked about it. The preseason showed to me they were blocking it up. They were going against the Bears once. They're blocking it up with Josh Simmons, who looks good to me, at the very least above average. And Suamataia got better to me as the preseason went along. Again, it's preseason. But he's young, he's talented. But that's where, they have the depth of like who they brought in, who they signed, is that if Simmons gets hurt again, Suamataia is not great, that's where Jalen Moore was practicing as well. He was getting some left guard reps as well. So Andy Reid's an O-line guy by trade originally, back BYU and all this, and then he became a quarterback guy. He's never going to go into the season, especially after last season, without some answer at offensive line. And I think, again, last year, they're like, okay, let's see if we can get away with it. Wow, we keep winning games. Wow, we're making it to the Super Bowl again, and then it just craps out on them in the Super Bowl. But this preseason, they were blocking it up, and Patrick Mahomes was unpinning the grenade and launching stuff. Again, it might be performative. It might be like, hey, look at this, get off our backs. But there did seem to be some, I would say urgency, but some confidence that they're like, yeah, this is what we're doing this year. Just watch this. But again, it could be me extrapolating too much. It could be me going like they're just getting away from against a basic defense, yada, yada, yada. They haven't played the one or starting defensive guys all the time. So maybe that's to me is like, okay, I'm maybe a little bit more optimistic about this offense than maybe I was a month ago, just based on what's happened the last couple
Well, they need
weeks.
to. I mean, this needs to happen. They can't just continue to be like the nickel and dime. Like I said, I think Rashee Rice is a good player, but I want him expanding the role, kind of the stuff that you're talking about. I want to see Xavier Worthy not just doing little screens and quick out routes. Like, let's get him ripping on those big posts and corner routes and things. And I think he's really good at running. I think he's really good at running those routes. So, like, let's see more of it. That's what we need.
Yeah. They also got to talk about the run game. They were super efficient last year, and they can rip off an explosive run to save their lives. And that was a pure running back. And no one in this division is probably happy with their running backs last year. Everybody, statistically and eye test. It's pretty funny, actually. Yeah, I know when you start thinking about it.
Raiders worst like run game ever. Chargers definitely were like 27th in success rate, even though they had big plays. Like, it was a pretty awful run game division.
Your stat that now I look up religiously, but the yards after contact per rush. Chargers were 27th, Broncos were 29th, Raiders were 31st, Chiefs were 32nd. So the Chiefs running backs last year were worse than all those teams. Yeah. And Pacheco was hurt most of the year. They're 30th in explosive runs. They just need some juice there. They need some juice there. Trade for Breece Hall or something. But yeah, that's where. Yeah, no, I've taken that and ran with it. I would say Breece Hall should be traded everywhere. I think the last month.
Oh, you're gonna get Travis Etienne as the running back on this team, and you're gonna like it, big boy. Let me tell you what, screen back guy. Yeah, you're gonna get Travis Etienne.
You're right. Man, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what's gonna happen. Or the Cowboys might go for him because he has the first round next to his label. Next to his name, and that's all Jerry Jones goes for.
Breece Hall's a bigger name. Breece Hall's a bigger name. He'll sell more jerseys, so he'll go to Dallas.
Good for all those Iowa State fans are rabid in Texas. Yeah, you're right. And then the last guy, obviously, the guy that's in the headlines right now, Travis Kelce, who looks slimmer, said he is slimmer. I think the engagement pictures, he looks slimmer as well. I would say those were nice pictures with Taylor Swift.
Well, I was joking with Ted Wynn of The Athletic. I said, well, listen, I this is when you get in the best shape of your life, right? We joke about it for football players, but right before your wedding, that's when you get in the best shape of your life. Hey,
yes, it is.
It's happening, baby.
I've my wedding picture back there, and it's like motivation every time I'm about to go down and do some cardio. Just get back to this, get back to playing weight. In Kelce too, I was looking, his average speed has just dropped every year. I don't think it's stopping now, but he might have just stopped it. It was 11.3 miles an hour in 2021, 11.3 in 2022, 10.75 in 2023, 10.27 in 2024, 9.89 in the preseason in 2025. So he might have lost weight, but I think Father Time is undefeated. And, I do appreciate the blocking he threw in last year. So maybe he can make it more all around. Let's get to the defense. Enough about the Chiefs offense and their lack of explosive plays. Maybe they'll get there. I think they'll get there this year. But the defense, Spags, still defense coordinator, return a lot of the same faces. I would say one of the biggest guys that they lose is Justin Reed, who is now in New Orleans, but enter Jaden Hicks. What do you think about this Chiefs defense? We kept them all. I think all of us kept them off the top 10 defenses, but if they ended up there, I wouldn't be totally shocked. But how are you feeling about them?
No, me neither. They have a lot of good players. Trent McDuffie, I'd like to see him play. I'd like to see him play in the slot more. I think he's like great outside, but he's like just such an incredible slot corner. But otherwise, like solid at the linebacker spot. Like Nick Bolton, of course, is back on an extension. Spags likes him. Fine. Like I'm not gonna come in here and disagree with like one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. George Karlaftis is a nice. I think they could maybe use like one more really dangerous edge rusher, but I mean, come on, these are champagne problems. I like this. I like this unit a lot. Yeah, they're not quite a top 10 unit, but we know that they can become a top 10 unit at any time because Spags is Spags. Chris Jones turns it up in big games, and yeah, I really do. I like the secondary. Christian Fulton's like an all right little solution on that on the outside as a cornerback as well. So yeah, like Justin Reed, very good player. I don't know what the hell he's going to do in New Orleans, but he's a very good player, and that's a loss. But otherwise, I think this defense will always be somewhere like, as long as Chris Jones is there and playing like Chris Jones, they'll always be something like 13th, 14th best defense in the regular season, and then turn it up in the postseason.
Crank it up. Yeah, Spags is going to go down in history as one of the best game planners ever. Any unit, offense or defense, and he's earned that reputation because it's proof in the pudding. He's done it. There's statistics I can point out. There's individual game performances I can point out. Last year, the one difference was Justin Reed was a part of this, but they just tackled really well. I thought the Eagles defense did as well. It was pretty cool to see two of the best tackling teams. So they didn't let up a lot of explosive plays. That's always been kind of the Spags conundrum, was that, he'd get a little too cute and then you gash him, and then all of a sudden, or you get two tight ends on the field or a fullback on the field. They match with 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, and you just are able to run on them or throw on them. You could kind of dictate them a little bit. But I would say that they kind of shored that up. They were pretty bad on 3rd down last year, which, again, I think it comes back. Like, they're 26th last year. I feel like Spags can whip that up. I know I wave away a lot, but that's the thing. Is like, they've kind of earned that right because they always pick it up in the second half of the year unless injuries happen, and Spags can do the best once they get to the playoffs, which I think they will. Your whole point about McDuffie is kind of my main point, though. This is the one, really what I'm focusing on the most with them, is because when McDuffie had to play outside last year because they couldn't play him in the slot, they got shredded in the slot. Like, they were the worst defense on targets to the slot. I think they were 32nd success rate. Like, the yards per average was super high as well. Yeah, it was bad. Yeah, the highest success rate of targets to the slot last year. Jalen Watson, who's their outside corner, was hurt. So then McDuffie had to play on the outside. Okay, so let's put Jamari Connor in the slot. He's getting shredded. So your mention of Fulton, he really matters. If he's on the field, McDuffie can kick back in. I'm feeling a little bit better about this defense because McDuffie's a true weapon. Like, he's not just an interesting corner. He's a defensive weapon, like one of the better defenders in the NFL, all pro caliber type of guy. And he plays in a defense that he can get weaponized. So I really, really do hope that he is able to play the slot, because I agree with you. That's where he can get weaponized the most. little shout. They have so many funky players. Like Jaden Hicks, there's new starting safety.
Yeah.
Like just a tough, big-bodied safety. And actually, this is like the perfect defense for him. He was almost a breakout player, but I couldn't quite get there yet. But Drew Tranquill, great blitzing linebacker that's perfect in this defense, like truly weaponized in this defense. Another Badger, Leo Chanel, is just can only fit in a couple defenses, but this is one of them that works perfect for him and really, really has helped out. I've mentioned all the base defense stuff. He's really good in that regard and on blitz packages as well. So, yeah, I think we're both in agreement here. It's like, I think they're more above average-ish, but the thing is I think they'll crank it up as the season goes along, just like they always do. And they have enough talent that I feel confident in that. Breakout player for the 3-time defending AFC champions. Who you got?
Yeah, boring answer. I did go Xavier Worthy here. Boring answer. Their first round pick last year, but like I said, I really think that he ended up showing well against zone coverage consistently at the end of last year, over 80% success rate. Some of that was some of the stuff that he did underneath, but to me, when I look at his like big post corner route stuff like that, there's a lot of meat left on the bone, and to me, it really comes down to time on task, more time with Pat Mahomes, like being where he wants you to be. I think Mahomes just being a little bit more accurate this year, which probably also comes from the offensive line giving him like a half beat longer, feeling a little bit more comfortable in that left tackle position. Yep. That it's just like a very cascading effect to me, which is I'm going to be really interested to see like what is the volume distribution between Worthy and Rice when Rice gets back, because this is a guy they took in the first round. You know, they should be really excited about him, you know, potentially taking on more of a load here. So do I think he's going to be like a true wide receiver one? I think there's always going to be issues against press man coverage, to the point that I think you have to roll cater to him. Just like I think you got to roll cater to Rice in ways, unless you're right and he does become more of the actualized version of what he looked like at SMU.
Just stretching. I'm just stretching what I'm seeing. Just stretching it out.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see. Again, maybe Tyquan Thornton's just the sacrificial X that makes this all go, and like occasionally he outruns coverage. That's fine. So, but I really grew to appreciate more of Worthy's stuff the longer that he played, and I think he played better. So just, you know, this is again a first round pick, young guy taking a step forward. I think it's possible this year.
Worthy is real, which I was worried that he would just be a fancy little cherry on top for a team that needed more than that. He's a real receiver. He's real, and that's already a win. And I think at the very least, he's a guy worth playing. So that, I'm with you. He's going to have some big touchdowns. Maybe they can keep that long touchdown that they scored at the end of the Super Bowl. Maybe they can do a few more of those. Maybe they can do that against starting safeties. Maybe we can do that against some starting safeties. Who are trying, yes, and who aren't already celebrating a little bit because they're up like 30 in the Super Bowl. I actually liked how the receiver room has shook out. Like, I'm not totally as down on as I thought. Once Rice comes back, of course. And if he's doing some X stuff too, like that frees up Worthy to move around, and Worthy and Kelce both are best when they can be off ball, I think. So I know it comes down to Rice, but we won't see it until week 7. For my breakout player, this was tough for me because it was like, do I go freaking super hipster and go like Noah Gray? Jaden Hicks was the other guy I looked at too. I'm going Jalen Watson, the corner 2, who was a good player last year when he was on the field. It was just that he got hurt, I think, after week 7. But good corner 2 that he plays well, that's this DB room is, again, interesting after a couple of years ago. It was really, really interesting. Brian Cook can stay healthy. Wow. Okay, they really reshifted this defense, who lost Snead, lost Reed. You know, they lost our guy Dan Sorensen years ago. But no, they remember that name? We've come a long way, baby. But no, this is I think Jalen Watson can turn into a more than fine, especially for a former 7th round pick, more than fine corner, a pretty good solid number 2, as long as he can stay on the field. So Jalen Watson, there'll be plenty of times to see him. The Chiefs got a lot of night games, a lot of national TV games. Their over under win total is 11.5. Over or under for you, Matt?
Yeah, I'll go over. Again, I think defense is solid, and I do think the offense takes a step forward. They won't be 32nd in explosive play rate last year. Whether that comes from I think most of it will come from the pass game, and I think the run game will be a little bit less. Like, maybe we can average 4.2 yards per carry this year instead of consistently 3.7.
Yeah, with you. I'm going over as well. I think the defense, I think both have high enough floors. And they also have this guy named frickin' Patrick Mahomes at quarterback.
Yeah, right.
We can go a whole thing without mentioning him because that's the focus because I can set my clock to Patrick Mahomes. We all had the Chiefs as the 10th ranked offense, but I've now feel better about it than when we did that show because of what has happened with the offensive line.
Yep.
Even if it's going to be up and down, I do think it's better than what they had last year overall. And I also just think that the pass catchers are going to sort themselves out a little bit better. So I am also going over. All right. Last team in the division, but not in our hearts, the Los Angeles Chargers, 11-6 in 2024. They got the Harbaugh bump. Did some cool things last year. Still Justin Herbert with the quarterback. Still a lot of the same staff. Still a lot of the same faces, really, let's be honest with on this team, for better or for worse. Defensive coordinator Jesse Minter also did some really cool stuff on defense. Kind of got the most of that part, or most of the parts there. The Chargers, though, this Chargers offense that really, statistically, not as great as you would think when you look at it, but still, I think they made the most of what they had. How are you feeling about this Chargers offense? How do you think the skill guys shake out? Is the offensive line enough to make them back to the playoffs?
Yeah, that last question is the big one, and we gotta update the depth chart here, of course, because Rashawn Slater is not going to be the left tackle. No. He's out for the season. It's Joe Alt, and then I've watched a lot of Chargers over the last few years, especially when I was doing the show with Eckler. So I'm aware of Trey Pipkins. I've watched a lot of Trey Pipkins, and he's back.
I was wondering if his name would come up.
He's back as the starting right tackle. They obviously played some games with like Bradley Bozeman, Zion Johnson, like who's center, who's left guard.
Yeah,
it just to me, I just wonder if, and I know like. God, Charles made that point on the draft show, and I was like, I think this Amari Hampton pick is really cool. And he's like, yeah, but they still didn't do anything on the interior offensive line. It's like, yeah, probably right. Mekhi Becton, I do think will be a good fit at right guard for what they want to do in the run game. But it would have been real. I think he would have been much better if Joe Alt was at his right, like at his right side. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Yeah. That to me is tough. Now you've got like a question mark at center and a question mark at right guard in between a guy that you're hoping continues to, like, he's graduated from, we always call it like Jeff Stoutland University. Like he's graduated from Jeff Stoutland University, and like he's in the workforce now. He's progressed to getting a career. Yeah, he's retained everything. Maybe he's going to the Jim Harbaugh's master program. You know, so I do think that that's going to be interesting. Just watching that, like the Zion Johnson, Mekhi Becton, Trey Pipkins, like. That part of the offensive line, I don't know. Yeah, so that part that's my biggest hesitation, because otherwise I think the receiver room is interesting. Keenan Allen being back there will just he'll be Keenan Allen. Vlad McConkey's a superstar, like a true superstar receiver.
Keenan Allen.
I mean, I'm not saying that disrespectfully. There's probably not a lot of teams where I would have been like gassed up about Keenan Allen being there, but like, okay, he knows this quarterback. They get each other. It's fine. Yeah, he's Keenan Allen. That's where he's at this point in his career. He's
5-yard reception on 3rd and 4 from the slot. That's Keenan Allen.
Well, at least, hey, better whatever the hell he was doing in Chicago last year when it's like, hey, Keenan Allen, why don't you clear out the seam for us? Oh, yeah, God. Great. That's that. Hey, Keenan Allen, run it. Speeds. Oh God! You got to look up his average route depth. I'm sure it was like the highest of his career. I can't remember running that many deep routes ever. And anyways, no Bears talk, please. But yeah, I think the skill position players are interesting. Justin Herbert last year was 4th in adjusted yards per attempt behind the 2 MVP bros, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jared Goff last year. So he did take a step forward from I think that offense was good for him. I think Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman were good for him, getting him out of his shell. But these are a lot of things I'm excited about, Nate. And then I can't stop looking at this center to right guard combination right here.
Yep. That's
center to right tackle.
It's like, no, I'm with you. It was especially in the offensive line and a run game, because Greg Roman just always thinks, he has the Stanford O-line or the original San Francisco 49ers O-line or the Ravens O-line when he took over there. That's like, well, just pull them, road grade them, pull them again. It's like, well, if you're going to pull your guys, who usually pulls the guards and centers. And you knew who has the hardest down blocks? The guards and centers. So you need talent there. You need some, with the Ravens, you had some all pros and pro bowlers. With the 49ers, you had some good players too. Like, you need guys that are good to do that stuff. It's a high risk, high reward type of run system. So that's where it's like, they're going to run the ball, and Hampton's going to provide more. I brought up those yards after contact stats. Like, Hampton's going to provide some juice. It's just that I think it's more of the same up front, where it's just going to be like, it's going to be frustrating. And then they're going to create some 3rd and 8s, and Justin Herbert's going to have to hero ball it sometimes. So like that, it just feels more of the same last year. Even if I'm with you, I'm pretty optimistic about the team. And like, I like a lot of the stuff that they got going. Ladd's obviously a star. They're going to make the most of their guys, but sometimes they just have they can't get out of their own way a little bit. This offense last year was 17th in suplex, 25th in rushing suplex, but then, 12th in DVOA and 14th in EPA per play. They're good situationally, 3rd down, red zone and stuff, but it's just those early downs. It's kind of the same discussion with the Broncos a little bit, where it's like, make the early downs more worthwhile. And you've made this reference before that felt last year like it was a lot like CJ Stroud the year before. We're running it because that's our identity. All right, it's another 3rd and 9. Go get him, CJ. You got it, buddy. And it's like, here, it's like, all right, go get him, Justin. You got it. Make a guy miss. Yep. Throw 25 yards down the field. Great job. 1st and 10. All right, here's another power run for 2 yards. 2nd and 8. That's their identity. And until they improve the guard play, I don't think it's going to change, or interior line play. Joe Alt, though, is a star, absolute star. Hit pick. He can play left tackle fine. That's where most people projected him. It's pretty outstanding. He was great on the right side as well. He 6.6% one-on-one pressure rate, was 8th among all tackles last year, full-time starters, about the same as Lane Johnson. I don't know if people know that. He's pretty good. And the 2nd best among all rookie tackles since 2019. Anton Harrison had a good one for the Jags. He dropped off last year, but he had a good one for the Jags. But yeah, there's the Will Dissly connection. There's Ladd I like. I even like the tight end they drafted on day 3, Oronde Gadsden from Syracuse. He's going to provide a little bit more juice in that tight end room. But to me, it's just, man, I just need maybe one more little bump. They try to address receiver juice and get an outside guy, but then they kind of left the interior line to rot a little bit. And they're saying it's going to be the coaching, but I'm not optimistic because I kind of know what they're getting there. So I think he'll be fine. And I think Herbert will provide some highs, but it's just not enough to get me over the top. Jesse Minter, defense, Michigan guy, Harbaugh guy, that's what just seems to happen with these guys. Did a really good job, really good game planning defense. You're number 9 preseason defense. They were 11th in weighted DVOA, and they're kind of in that range with all the underlying stats. But this Chargers defense, what stands out to you? Do you think it can be a little bit more real? Like, I'm not trying to take away what they were last year because they're so well disciplined and game plan, and they got some talent. But do you think they did enough this offseason, or are you a little bit more optimistic that maybe against better opponents they can hold the fort?
Yeah, I definitely think that what impressed me so much about this team was just like the communication and how they would pass guys off in the secondary against in zone coverage. That was really impressive to me. Dante Jackson starting at corners, like, okay, I think that's probably fine, right? But that's one spot where I'm like kind of squinting at. But Cam Hart still in these guys, Derwin James still playing pretty well in the secondary. Like, I do think this is a really good, and in the linebacker room too, like, is a good unit as well. So to me, I think they'll be tough to run on because Tyre Tart is like he's like a mercenary nose tackle, but he's a pretty good solid player. Khalil Mack still obviously is coming off like a couple of great seasons as an edge rusher, and he's just a dog still in the run game to me. Like, he's just always so competitive. So
he'll be able to play for
great
5
against
more
the
years
run.
just being a run defender.
I was gonna say he'll probably be like a great run defender when he's 50. Like, I don't know if he'll be getting any sacks, but he'll be a great run defender when he's like 50 freaking years old. He's just such like he's just a tank. Like, he's truly is a tank. Yeah, him and Calais Campbell, when they're like in the old folks' home, are just they're a lockdown run defense, a brick wall out there. But yeah, man, I do think this defense is pretty interesting, especially just I was really impressed with how well they communicated on the back end, and they made it tough. Like, pre and post snap, they made things tough on quarterbacks last year.
They did. They were, I think you even look at some of the stats, like red zone and 3rd down will have some noise year in, year out, but really it comes down, on offense, it's the quarterback, but also it's the coaching, because that's game plan. That's very designery week in, week out. You got these certain coverages you have to go against. last year, or on defensive side, certain pass plays you have to go against or run plays. They were awesome in situations, which I think reflects what Minter is doing and that coaching staff's doing. First in red zone efficiency and fifth and third down conversion rate. They play a ton of quarters. And I also recommend anybody who plays college football or Madden and has trouble on defense, just run quarters every play. And that's why defenses do it too. You keep everything on top. You can adjust everything. Hey, 12-year-old on too much sugar. Can you get another 5-yard gain?
Well.
That's it. Just got to tackle. But if you have
be a good tackle team.
If you game plan well, in theory, you have a lot of defenders near the ball. So it's like, hey, boom, in theory, you should tackle well if you game plan well. They did. They only allowed their third and explosive plays allowed last year. So I'm with you. They have enough juice at all three levels. They have Derwin James as well. They have enough guys, but then the game plan maximizes it. So I don't think it's a top 5 defense, but this is, to me, you can kind of go, yeah, this is top half of the league easily, probably top 12. 11th away with the DVA kind of feels like the floor. I ish, or maybe kind of like a mid-tier projection for them, but they got good enough players. They can game plan really well. They make it really hard on lesser quarterbacks because of that. Like what they did to the Browns last year was like they were running the routes for them, and it was pretty cool to watch. So I'm with it. That the only negative of all that, this is just one little side bit. So if you're ever like a props player or anything, you can scramble on this defense. So defenses that run a lot of quarters and run really matchy game planning quarters, all the DBs are looking at the receivers and tight ends. So they're all bracketing them and all that. So then the quarterback can just run free. It's my one little cheat I always look at against some of these teams. And last year they were like 26th and like against scrambles or something. But anyways, fun defense, really well game plan defense. Jesse Minter will probably be a head coach candidate very, very soon. Breakout player for the LA Superchargers. What you got, Matt?
Oh yeah, this is definitely where we talk about Keandre Lambert-Smith. No, I do think he's an interesting rookie for them. Though, like legit guy can play. I know. I think Tuli Pulotu is probably is my pick here. I think like had a really good rookie season, kind of got a little derailed last year, some injuries, stuff like that. But definitely a guy that I think it can take a step forward. And like honestly, when I look at this defense, is kind of they need him to take. I don't always want to make these breakout candidates like based on what they need to happen, but I think they kind of need him to take a step forward. And I think Joey Bosa did run his course there, but hopefully this is part of their plan to replace him and. Still good. And like there was really just like, okay, see you later, Joey. Just I hopefully that Tuli is part of the plan here to replace him. Because again, like I said, he really, really flashed as a rookie to like get under guys' pads and make an impact as an edge rusher. That's probably the thing that would take this defense from being really good regular season defense, really tough on bad teams. But like you said, when we get faced with the best teams in the NFL, I think they need more disruption. They need more pass rush to not just like, hey, corners really glove this thing up. Like you mentioned, all those quarters coverages and like really shutting down the deep portions of the field. You don't always want to rely on that because sometimes somebody makes a mistake and then Joe Burrow's throwing the thing to T. Higgins over your head and just launching it. Like the thing that can really help
which is what happened.
If you get an edge
which
rusher.
Is what happened last year.
Literally, yes, so literally is what I'm not making that up. I didn't pull that out of my ass.
I can tell you it was like 4th and 3. I can tell you.
Yeah, that is a thing that happened. So I mean, yeah, like Tuli stepping up and becoming that edge rusher that I think he was trending to being after his rookie season. And like I said, we just kind of plateaued year 2. Not all his fault, but that's really something that I think can help take this defense to the next level.
No, it's a great one. Bosa's not there. Even if he was, he's barely starting 10 games. He was still on the field. He was very impactful. So no, great call with Tuli, and great call with his rookie season as well. I went with Deion Henley, linebacker. Very, very good linebacker. And I think, some hipsters, but some of us are on him. Some of us have touted him as well, but he didn't get any accolades last year. So damn it, I can say breakout player.
Why not?
And I think he's going to get that national kind of bump that, when, Jeremy Fowler is doing his little the top 10 rankings of every position. There's Henley in there. He's getting the bump up there. There's top 3, top 4 up there. But very, very good player. One of these players that got unlocked in the scheme. I think something clicked for him last year. He was always more of an he's a former receiver, more of an athlete than a linebacker. I always thought he was going to be like a run and hit guy, and he's turned into a nice, just all around player. Can take on blocks, good blitzer, can really good in coverage. Yeah, there's some really good young linebackers coming up, and Deion Henley is one of those. So yeah, wanted to give him a shout out as a breakout player. 9.5 wins for the LA Chargers. Over or under, Matt? Let's bring it home.
I'll go over. I think this is a 10-win team. I'm not sure they're good enough to win a playoff game, though. That's where I'm. Man. I think they'll make playoffs, but I think they might. Which will can't wait for more Justin Herbert playoff discourse. Although last year I think he could have not thrown like a bajillion interceptions in that game, even if it wasn't all his fault. I do. First one was rough. Definitely didn't help. He didn't do himself any favors, even if there was obviously some contributing factors there. But yeah, like I said, I think this team can win 10 games, and then probably is not quite there. They need better play. Like I said, pass rush, offensive line to get to the next step here.
I am going to go under, but it's not like I think the bottom's falling out. I just think a 9-win team, 8-win team. And then, and they could easily, some things break right. It's just, they got a little lucky last year. They played a pretty soft schedule as well. I mean, Herbert got hurt as well too. So I got to throw that in there. Just, they made upgrades, but not where I wanted to see them. And I know that's not fair. You only have so many resources, but there's just maybe a couple more moves I thought they could make that would maybe more optimistic. Interior offensive line, most definitely was probably the one. So I think this is a high floor team that's got a good coach on both sides, and also has what I consider one of the top quarterbacks. So don't see a bottom falling out. Don't see them falling off. They could easily make the playoffs. They could easily win 10 games. I do see, not easily, but they can. That's very much within the realm of what could happen. But I'm just going to go slight under with them, just because some of the stuff is a little worrisome. All right, AFC West. We no, there might be one a little interesting here. But let's say with your final division prediction, who do you got winning the AFC West, Matt?
I have the Chiefs winning the AFC West. Okay. As long as Patrick Mahomes is employed by the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid is his head coach, I'm probably going to pick them for a long time. I remember during the top 10 the top 10 head coaches show that you were kind of like, all right, some of this offense is feeling a little too, like Andy is a little too Andy right now. And I was glad that you were brave enough to say it, because I do feel that way about this team at times, but I'm hoping that we do get a little more verticality, and that again, I think will make them like run away with this division. Even if it's more competitive, even if all these teams are going to be competitive, I still, again, I think the Chiefs win it, and they rest starters in week 18. I don't think they run away with it. I think the Broncos do make it tight. I think they maybe drop a game to a Chargers and obviously Chargers, but Raiders as well. Like they were going to have a couple of those losses, I do think, but I'm going with the Chiefs as well. I just have become more optimistic about the offense, and then I think the defense is going to be at least mid-tier, and then if not better, if I've underrated a few aspects, but retaining all that and just. I think there are maybe some explosive play changes because of what they are showing at least. And again, it might be lip service, but I am buying it this time more than I did last year. So going to go over. I think it's their division at least for this one more year, and maybe win some playoff games or two. We'll see. But that is it for our AFC West division preview. We're going to take a quick break and then come back with my interview with Bijan Robinson from the Falcons. All right, here I am joined by Bijan Robinson. Thank you for setting it straight of how to pronounce that, because I felt crazy when you were a draft prospect, because I finally thought I got a name right. And I felt like I was getting corrected for a couple of years.
You got it right.
I finally got it right. I know. But Bijan, thank you so much for joining me. How you doing today?
Man, doing great, man. Just here with, obviously with the college colors, man. And just representing College Colors Day. That's obviously happened on Friday. And, I think it's just really important for just everybody, all the fans to represent their school and their colors the right way. And this, the saying is flip the switch. So, when you put on, that jersey or that t-shirt, like you got to be a different person. You got to bring energy, and just have fun and be hyped. But, I can't wait to see what everybody does this weekend, how they post and, see the internet. It's going to be fun, man.
I think your alma mater's got a pretty good game. this weekend. Yeah. And also it's easy to wear those colors, burnt orange and white, even if, I'm a Wisconsin guy. I went to Wisconsin. So, we're like, okay, it's classic, but like but the all whites and the burnt orange, I totally get it. Yeah. Pretty big weekend. How you feeling about Arch? How you feeling about his first time?
I think it's going to be a fun year for him. To start it all off, and I think he's had a lot of experience through, just learning from Quinn and Coach Sark and just everybody there, man. And now like that is his time to be the quarterback, for the team. Like I think he'll do great, and he's had experience for a long time, and seeing his family play. So now it's his time to go out there and do it. But man, I'm excited to watch him play. Man, it's gonna be pretty fun.
It should be fun. Spoilers. I'm optimistic about him. I'm a pretty big fan of his. Just watching him, evaluating him. So I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see it. Yeah. Actually, I have a question for you. You went to high school in Tucson, college in Austin.
Yep.
And then now you're in Atlanta. Which heat is the hardest to handle? The dry heat in Tucson? I live in Vegas. Or the humidity in the dirty South, or in Austin?
Man, Tucson, like that heat is different.
A low of 105.
We couldn't even, we couldn't even practice during the day. Like that's how it was illegal to practice during the day, which is wild. But like you just said, that low
morning person,
that low of 105 is not sweet, man. It's not. Like you're waking up to when it hit 8:30, it was 99. And I'm like, bro, this is not fun. This is not fun for nobody.
Vegas weather and 2 kids has made me a morning person. But man, I can only imagine how Arizona was too in high school and Little League.
I know Vegas too. Like, not fun. Yeah,
it's not at all. But also in high school in Tucson. All right, I've been meaning to ask you this, so I'm so glad I get to talk to you about it, because I was wondering if this was a fudged number. But your senior year, you ran for 2,235 yards, 38 touchdowns on 126 carries. So you averaged almost 18 yards a carry in high school in your senior year?
Yeah, man.
Were you out after the first quarter? Like just after every game?
It was a lot of first halves. It was a lot of first halves. Like, which was fun, because it was like, I think that year I played into the fourth quarter one time, and that was like the semifinal game against Chandler. But it was just fun to to be around all the guys. Like that year, it was cool.
Well, winning's fun. Yeah, winning's nice.
Winning's out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then you split with Roshan and other running backs and at Texas. So that's what's so great. I thought even when you became a prospect, it's like you got you saved some wear and tear on that body.
Yeah, especially even now, man, every time. Even now, like with Tyler Algier being the other bad, like I feel like it's important to have 2 guys and another guy to back you up, because as like being a running back in the league, like you want as less wear and tear as possible. So it was a blessing having Roe in college, and then now having Tyler here. Like those are two amazing players, and it just helps you out at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So that's actually kind of leads to what I'm curious about. I always thought of you as a very all-around back with like a skill set, and you're able to affect the game in a lot of different ways. But what was the biggest adjustment for you joining the pros, getting to the pros? Was it the wear and tear? Was it pass protection? Was it just complexity of the offense? And maybe something that, or you try to grow maybe even this offseason, or you try to get better this offseason or this training camp, something you focused on?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference obviously was like, guys are smarter in the league. You don't have a lot of guys you don't have a lot of guys that like make a lot of mistakes. So I realized like scheme was, a big thing, and how you run the scheme, how you run the plays. And, fortunately for us, like we have really great players on offense. So it helps out everybody on the field. And, I think another adjustment for me was like learning the receiving playbook, like what I have to do, as a receiver, in a lot of different spots, and, moving around a lot of different spots. Like, for me, like that was a huge thing for me as well. But, I think what that had me learn was like, you're a player that can, like you just said, affect the game in so many different ways, running the football, catching the football. And, that's only doesn't just help me out, but it helps out this whole offense, this whole team, and it opens up the whole field for all of us. All of the skill players to just go out there and be our best. So it's been a fun journey in the NFL. I love playing at this level. College was fun, but I think at this level I get to do everything and explore all my skill sets, which has been such a blessing, man.
And because you have such a again all around game, like really. There's been some greats with that as well. Was there anyone that you try to emulate or you were like inspired by, even maybe not even just as a kid, like all of us have a ton of, favorite players, but maybe as you became a pro, you're like, I appreciate this guy's game more. And I want to kind of just copy something that maybe he does.
Yeah. I mean, LaDainian Tomlinson, like, even just talking to him, like just talking to him has been pretty special. And even for him, like watching my game now and, telling me like, bro, like, he's like, man, it's like watching me on the field. And I think that's pretty cool because he's my favorite player ever as a running back in the NFL. Yeah. And I think the things that he's done has been, extremely special, especially with, San Diego. And I was young watching him play. But, the fact that, I don't emulate, but I try to pick a lot of things out of so many players' games. And I watch a lot of running backs, especially back in the old times. Like, I'm still watching Barry Sanders highlights before games because, he's just done so many things.
Get you going.
Yeah, seriously. He did so many like exciting things, and I try to be like such an exciting player to watch. Whenever I play on Sundays, Thursday, Mondays, it doesn't matter like when, but it's cool seeing those guys set it all off and set it in their own standards, so I can God willing one day do it my same way every single year.
No, that's great. That's the exact mindset to look at too. No, LT is it's a great one to copy.
No doubt.
Running back LT, you're not an edge rusher. But no, you play like it sometimes. Maybe the last question for you is there a play or something you did that you think is maybe your favorite under the radar play? Was there a catch or a route you did? Maybe you weren't even targeted, or was there like a cut against the grain where you even got like 6 yards and you're like, it was a cool 6-8 yard gain, something that stands out that maybe, like people just maybe don't appreciate all the time, but you're like, that was actually pretty great. I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah. There's a lot of those plays, but I think my one of the plays that like people might not appreciate, but like, it's pretty cool is, it was a block.
Now we're talking
against Bobby Wagner, and
I know the exact one.
Yeah.
To clean him.
Yeah, but he I have so much respect for him. Like he was my favorite linebacker, like playing on Madden.
He's a legend.
Just seeing him play, and the fact that we have a 1-on-1, and it was like so anticipated all week. Me versus Bobby. So like for me to like make that play happen, I was like, man, it was like, man, that's pretty cool, man. Like that's Bobby Wagner. Like it wasn't even the block, just the respect for him and playing against him. So I respect that dude so much. Like I love, I played against him one time. That was that first time. So like be able to go against him again this year, like it's going to be super fun. Awesome. And even just talking to him at the Pro Bowl, like he's such a wise dude, great dude. Yep. But I think that was a play that I'm like, yeah, man, that was pretty dope.
I know the exact one. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And Bobby Wagner coming downhill is no joke.
No joke.
He might be older now, but it's still no joke.
He still got it, man. So
yeah, I know. And you tried to help him up, if I remember correctly.
I sure did.
You did. I'm sorry, sir.
I did, man. I was like, hey, yo, like, come on, get up. So cool.
I didn't mean that. Cool. I didn't mean that. I promise.
No.
Hey, Bijan, thank you so much for joining me. And
Nate, appreciate you, man.
Here on behalf of College Colors Day, and best of luck this season. Best of luck to you and the Falcons. Have a great year. I'm expecting it. I'm sure you are too. But no, best of luck.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
Closing it out today. Thank you so much to Bijan for joining me, and thank you to Matt for doing the AFC West division preview. These division previews, hopefully, they're very informational for anyone that was listening. They were for us. Love doing the work. Hopefully, we got to show our work a little bit with some of these rants and ravings, but it was a ton of fun getting to do it the last month with Matt and Charles. So thank you to everyone for listening. We're going to be back on Tuesday getting ready for week one. Get ready for that Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday schedule because week one of the NFL is starting. That's right, Sunday live shows. Yeah, get ready for those. I'm Nate Tice. You can find me at Nate_Tice. That is Matt Harmon. You can find him at Matt Harmon_BYB on social media. Subscribe to us, please. Follow us, rate us, follow us on Yahoo Sports YouTube channel as well. Make sure to check us out there. Thanks to Stone, Madison, and Ingrid behind the scenes for making us look and sound good. Thank you all for listening. See you guys next time. Enjoy your Labor Day.